Hi everyone, we're going to talk about Washington, one of my favorites. I did this in 8th grade. We did state reports, and so I did Washington because my parents used to live there. I have lots of family there. My brother was born there, and we visit a lot. It's like our second home, so I'm a big fan. So this beautiful scene right here, that's Mount Rainier, and it ascends 14,410 feet above sea level. Trees in Washington State's Hoh Rainforest can live to be 1,000 years old. Roosevelt elk live in Washington State's Olympic National Park. George Washington was elected as the United States' first president in 1789, and they named, of course, their state after him. The American goldfinches, they have 6 different vocalizations, including a potato chip call, a potato chip call. That I need to hear. And then there's the seal, which has a George Washington in the center. And some of the symbols, the state marine mammal is the orca, state bird goldfinch, state flower, coast rhododendron, and then there's the state quarter. Okay. So fast facts, nicknamed the Evergreen State, statehood 1889, 42nd state. Population as of July 2015 is 7,170,351. Capital Olympia. Biggest city Seattle. Abbreviation WA. State bird goldfinch. State flower coast rhododendron. History. People began living in what's now Washington at least 10,000 years ago. They could have come by way of a land bridge that became exposed when water levels fell during the last ice age, connecting North America to Asia. Thousands of years later, many Native American tribes, including the Yakima, Chinook, Nez Perce, and Puget Sound Salish, lived on the land. European explorers reached the area by sea in the 1700s, but they spent only a little time ashore before returning to their ships. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, the first Americans sent on an expedition to explore the West, arrived here in 1805, but they soon returned back east. For part of the early 19th century, the British and Americans shared ownership of the region. The two nations signed a treaty that divided the land in 1846. America's Oregon Territory, which included the land that would become Washington, was established. The British took control over what's now Canada to the north. The state of Washington was created in 1889. Why is it called that? Washington is named in honor of President George Washington. It's nicknamed the Evergreen State because of its many forests which cover over half the state. The forests there are so beautiful, I must say. Geography and landforms. There it is on the map. So it's up in the very upper left corner. Washington is the northwest corner of the contiguous United States, which excludes Alaska and Hawaii. It's bordered by British Columbia, Canada in the north, Idaho in the east, Oregon in the south. The Columbia River forms most of the border with this state, and the Pacific Ocean in the west. So normally when we would travel up, when you travel up to Washington, so when we would go to Seattle, you just go straight up on I-5, but for us, we go on I-5 until about here, and then we would be going along the border here in Oregon, which is the Columbia River. And then at one point we go and we cross the river, cross the bridge, and then all of a sudden we're in Washington, and then we make our way over to Coeur d'Alene. So that's kind of our little journey. Very familiar with it. The land can be divided into 6 geographic regions. The Olympic Mountains stand in Washington's northwest corner, which is bordered by the Strait of Juan de Fuca in the north and the Pacific Ocean in the west. The wild, wet area contains dense rainforests. Most of this region is within Olympic National Park, and experts think parts of the park still haven't been explored. Coast Range area is in Washington's southwest corner, and it includes forested hills and beaches along the coastline. East of the Coast Range is the Puget Sound lowlands with river valleys, harbors, and the state's major cities. The area has millions of low, flattened hills, here called Mima Mounds. Scientists still aren't sure how these mysterious mounds were formed, but theories range from gophers to earthquakes. Further east, you'll find the towering Cascade Mountains, which I've been there, which include Mount Rainier at 14,410 feet. This is fifth highest point in the contiguous United States. Mount St. Helens is also located here. This volcano had a massive eruption in 1980, the biggest the lower 48 states had seen since 1917. The Columbia Plateau spreads across the south-central portion of the state. It's part of the world's biggest lava plateau and includes steep dry canyons called coulees and patches of dry lava called scablands. Blue Mountains rise in the state's southeast corner. Also in the southeast are the Palouse Hills, which are covered in loess, wind-blown sediment made of silt and clay. A portion of the Rocky Mountains sits the northeast portion of the state. The Columbia Mountains are also part of this region. Wildlife. Look for mammals such as bighorn sheep, gray wolves, and Olympic marmots. Birdwatchers may see osprey, bald eagles, goldfinches, the state bird, plus water birds like albatrosses and puffins. Pacific giant salamanders and Pacific chorus frogs are among Washington's amphibians. The state's reptiles include sharp-tailed snakes and pygmy shorthorn lizards. Washington state tree is the western hemlock, but you're also likely to see Douglas firs, Rocky Mountain maples, and ponderosa pines here. Common flowers include woolly sunflowers, tiger lilies, and coast rhododendrons, the state flower. Natural resources. With half the state covered in forests, it's no surprise that Washington is one of the country's biggest lumber and plywood producers. This state is also known for mining valuable metals such as gold, lead, and aluminum. Fun stuff. Washington produces more sweet cherries, apples, pears, and red raspberries than any other state. It's also the birthplace of Rainier cherries, a pink and gold variety that's known for being super sweet. I love Rainier cherries. They're like yellow, and then they have a little pinkish color to it. They're really pretty. We always get them when we go up there. Famous Washingtonians include artist Chuck Close, cartoonist Gary Larson, musician Jimi Hendrix, singer Bing Crosby, and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates. The 605-foot-tall Seattle Space Needle looks like it has a flying saucer on top, and Washington is the only state to be named after a president. Okay, we got a bird video. Looks like it may give us some difficulty. I'm just going to refresh it real quick and see if that will help. All right. So hopefully this will help. I refreshed it. I needed to let it kind of load. It's not quite fully there. But before I get started, it just says, Barry the Bald Eagle meets Rocker Goldie, the American goldfinch, the state bird of Washington. They rock out in the city of Seattle, tour forests, and learn about the state's industry. There's rain in the forecast, but that doesn't stop Barry and Goldie from flying out to some of Washington's biggest volcanoes, making this episode explosive. And that's kind of the fun thing with Seattle is I like this video because they do kind of a rock theme, which is what they're known for, especially back in the early 90s. They had a lot of famous bands that came from there. And so, of course, the way that the bird is dressed is like during those times. So, anyway, hope you have fun watching it. Go ahead and play it. Hopefully the rest will load as we watch.
I'm DJ Pigeon, and I'd like to introduce y'all to our national bird. Make some noise for Barry the Bald Eagle, our state chauffeur. That's right, y'all. What up, what up? Come along with me, my little historians. We're headed to the state named after George Washington. It's called Washington! Let me introduce y'all to this friend that flies this state, inch by inch. He's the state bird of Washington, the American goldfinch. Yo, what up, Goldie? Welcome to Washington, Barry. Where are we off to first for this rap battle? The biggest city in the Northwest, Barry. We're headed to Seattle. Cool. The Seattle area is the home of Starbucks and Microsoft, Pearl Jam, and the Seahawks. Coast to coast, state to state. Tell you about the place and we'll make some great. Fly with me, fly with me, fly with me, come on, fly with me. Wow, Seattle's full of people that are zany. Yeah, and the weather's always rainy. We've got one of the most famous fish markets in the U.S. There's a lot more to Washington than Seattle's address. We have massive industries, rain and lightning and clouds of thunder. One of the nation's leading producers of lumber.
Alright, well, we didn't get as far, but you can watch the rest at another time. Unfortunately, these just don't load fast enough. Let's see. Alright, we'll stop there. Alright, you guys, we'll talk more about Washington later. You can watch this video on your own. Might work a little better for you. Thanks.